For over 3 decades, he was, without a doubt, one of the most powerful and feared figures in the Middle East. This was a man who literally built a militant group into an army and a political party into a state within a state. And then, just like that, he was gone. So the big question is, who was Hassan Nasrallah? It all came down to this day. An Israeli airstrike slams into an underground headquarters in Beirut. And the target? Well, it was confirmed by both Israel and Hezbollah almost immediately. Hassan Nasrallah, the group's longtime leader. An event like this doesn't just make headlines, it sends massive shockwaves across the entire region. So to really get a handle on what his death means, we've got to go back. We need to look at the life he lived and the incredibly powerful and really complex organization he commanded for more than 30 years. So let's ask, how did this guy rise to power in the first place? And what exactly did he build? Sometimes to understand the beginning, you have to start at the end. So let's dive right into the details of that final strike that, well, took him off the board. Okay, so the details here are pretty incredible. This was not just some random strike. Israel used specialized bunker buster munitions, and these things are specifically designed to hit deep underground targets. And get this, the location was a command center hidden right underneath a residential building. That really shows you just how embedded Hezbollah's operations were within civilian areas. And what's crucial is that both sides, Hezbollah and the IDF, confirmed his death right away, so there was absolutely no room for doubt. So, it's a pretty wild story, right? How does the son of a local greengrocer end up leading one of the most powerful militant organizations in the world? Well, his journey, like so many others from that region, started right in the middle of the chaos of the Lebanese Civil War. This timeline really paints the picture. He's born into a pretty humble Shiite family. As a teenager, he gets swept up in the Lebanese Civil War and joins a group called the Amo movement. But in 1982, that was the real turning point. That's when Iran's Revolutionary Guards helped create the much more radical Hezbollah, and Nasrallah jumped on board right at the beginning. Then, just a decade later, and get this, he's only 32 years old. He's suddenly in the top job after an Israeli strike kills the guy before him. All right, so you really can't understand the man without understanding the organization he built. And Hezbollah, which translates to the Party of God, is, well, it's unlike pretty much any other group on Earth. The absolute key thing to grasp here is its dual identity. It's both a Shiite Muslim political party and a seriously powerful militant group. It popped up during the Israeli occupation of southern Lebanon, and right from the get-go, it was funded, trained, and ideologically driven by Iran. Yeah, this is where things get really complicated, but this breakdown helps. On one side, you've got a legit political player inside Lebanon. I mean, they hold seats in parliament, they run schools and hospitals, they've built a huge base of support. But then, on the other side, you have an organization that the US and others call a terrorist group. It's Iran's #1 proxy force, basically a group that does Iran's bidding in the region. And it's widely considered the most heavily armed non-state actor in the world. What does that mean? It means it's a military force that isn't a country's army. It's an army run by an ideology. And that dual nature, that's the secret to its power. It's also what makes it so incredibly hard for other countries to deal with. And if you want a sense of scale, just look at this number. Back in 2021, Nasrallah himself bragged that he had 100,000 fighters under his command. Now, okay, a lot of analysts think that number is a bit high, but even the more conservative estimates put Hezbollah's forces in the tens of thousands. Let that sink in. That's bigger and more powerful than the actual armies of many countries. So when you look back, Nasrallah's 32-year reign was really defined by one thing: relentless conflict. And all of it was driven by a single, very powerful ideology. And this quote is everything. It's the key to understanding his entire strategy. See, after Israel pulled out of southern Lebanon in 2000, Nasrallah gave this now famous spider's web speech. His whole point was that Israel only looks strong from the outside, but on the inside it's fragile, like a spider's web, and can't handle real, sustained pressure. That single belief drove decades of conflict against the state he had sworn to destroy. And believe me, this wasn't just talk. That ideology was put into practice over and over again. His leadership is just a long, deadly list of conflicts. We're talking bombings in Argentina back in the 90s, sparking a full-blown war with Israel in 2006, sending his fighters into Syria to save the Assad regime. And of course, most recently, opening up a northern front against Israel right after the October 7th Hamas attack. It was, from start to finish, a legacy written in conflict.
So, with that whole history of conflict as the backdrop, what happens now? What's the immediate aftermath of his death? Well, as you can probably guess, his elimination has triggered completely different reactions depending on who you ask.
I mean, it's exactly what you'd expect. The two main players here are seeing this through totally different lenses. Hezbollah immediately called it a cowardly terrorist act, a massacre. The IDF, on the other hand, put it very bluntly. They eliminated a man responsible for the murder of countless Israeli civilians and soldiers. There is just no middle ground to be found here.
Now, if we zoom out a bit, you can see the global fault lines just light up. The US and Israel basically framed this as justice being served. You had President Biden calling it a measure of justice, and Prime Minister Netanyahu saying Israel had settled accounts. But then you look at Hezbollah's main backer, Iran, and the message is one of pure defiance. Ayatollah Khamenei came out and said the resistance will not be destroyed. That's a pretty clear signal that, in their eyes, this fight is nowhere near over.
And that, right there, brings us to the final and most crucial question of all. For an entire generation, Hassan Nasrallah was Hezbollah. Now, with him and so many of his top commanders gone, the organization has been, for all intents and purposes, decapitated. So what's next? Can a group like this even survive something so devastating? And what on earth does this mean for the future of Lebanon and for the wider, incredibly explosive politics of the Middle East? That is the great unknown.